Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them, and I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that I have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. We are continuing our way to Fall of the Mutants, which starts next issue with 24. And I'm covering both X-Men and X-Factor. I have a playlist for both of them. I also have a playlist for the New Mutants. I also have a playlist for Wolverine. And I have an X Universe playlist where I've covered everything in reading order. Started with classic X-Men #1, which is Giant Size X-Men #1, and then have worked myself up to current. I love this era of the Chris Claremont X-Men era, and so we're covering it. So X-Factor #23 from 1987. It is Cameron Hodge and the Right versus X-Factor. And great cover here by Simonson. I've been covering his Thor run. I have one issue left, and I will have completed his entire Thor run. I have a playlist on that as well. I love me some Walter Simonson. So, you say you want some evolution. We've got Iceman. We've got the Beast. We've got Marvel Girl. And we have Cyclops. Angel is presumed dead. And they are going to try to break into the Wright's headquarters here. Does Louise Simonson tell us where this is? Let's see here. Nope, just giving us some Chris Claremont-ish type of background. So it lets us know they're looking for Cameron Hodge, that they pretend to be mutant hunters, the whole X-Factor enchilada. Iceman right now is having a hard time controlling his powers. So, and so we don't know where they are. There is no mention right now. Oh, and here is Caliban. I missed him. So Caliban is right here. There is his, I think in the previous issue they said where they were going. But I, for the life of me, cannot remember here. So, all right. Beast asks Iceman, what are you doing up there, Iceman? Pretending you're me? And Iceman says, playing lookout, beastie old pal. You can thank me later. Heads up, guys. There's a guard down there. What kind of science museum has a yard patrolled by an armed guard? Was this Virginia? And everyone uses armed guards. Anyway, maybe not in the 80s, but now there's pretty much armed guards. And so this is who we are looking at here. And Jean Grey says, what kind of a science museum kidnaps children? We'll have to take him out, Cyclops, but we don't want to hurt him. And Caliban says, but Marvel Girl, the guard is a villain, one of the infamous Wright. They tried to use Richter to destroy San Francisco, and they attacked us in New York City. And he has a gun, says Caliban. Of course, we're getting our exposition here. And Cyclops says, nevertheless, Caliban, Jean's right. Villain or not, he's only human, and his gun's not much use against our powers. And so Cyclops says, listen, Bobby, you can lob one of your giant ice balls against the fence. And so Iceman says, sure, psych. Even in my overpowered condition, I have enough control for that. So here comes the ice ball here. You hear the crash. The guard turns, and Cyclops uses a short little beam from his eyes to hit him here. So B says, "Good shooting, Psych. He's out for the count. Now what?" And Cyclops says, "Now we go inside. Lift us unto the roof, will you, Genie? Which way now, Caliban?" And so you can see Jean Grey uses her telekinetic powers to get them over. And Caliban says, "Caliban no longer registers any of the children, Cyclops. Perhaps their prison is now blocked from my perception." And Cyclops continues, "Then we'll have to find them the hard way. In through the skylight, people. Slow and careful." And I forgot to do the credits. My goodness gracious. In my hurry, I forgot to do the credits. Louise Simonson is our writer. Walter Simonson is our penciler. I love me some Walter Simonson. Bob Wiacek is the same old inker here. And then our editorial is Bob Harris and Tom DeFalco, who has replaced Jim Shooter as Marvel's editor-in-chief. And so Cyclops continues, "We want to keep our presence here as secret for as long as possible." Look at these gigantic roofs. I mean, goodness gracious. The heating and cooling bill for this place would be ginormous. And so we've got a guard here. He hears this crunch. And Beast grabs him here. And he says, "I'll ask the questions, pal. You have some prisoners here, children. Where are they?" And he's like, "Where? No, get away. They can't answer. They." And suddenly the guy blows up. You see this brum in here, and everyone is just shocked at that. And he screams his arg. And he falls. And a shoe falls off, which is, I think, a nice little, I don't know, gives us a little bit more of I don't know, feelings or whatever. And Jean says, "He killed himself. We were just asking, why would he?" And Cyclops says, "What makes you think he did this himself, Jean? You saw how terrified he was at the prospect of being questioned. I suspect the right provided him with an implant that protected right secrets." And so Beast takes his desk and lifts it up there. "Bobby keeps telling the humans to judge mutants by their deeds. If that applies equally to humans, the rights are evil suckers, but if they think that'll stop us..." And so he picks up the desk here. He slams it against the door. "Beast, Hank, stop. What are you?" And the Beast says, "Hank, what's come over you, pulling a dumb stunt like that? I could have used my optic blast, or Jean could have jimmied the door telekinetically without setting off alarms." And you can see the alarms here. "Branga, branga, branga." And the Beast says, "What's the matter, pal? You okay? That not like you?" Oh, sorry. That was Iceman. Sorry. "Your recent displays of super strength are putting a drain on your brain." And so the guards see him and they start shooting here. And the Beast says, "I've been getting stronger ever since Pestilence touched me, but every time I use my strength, it seems harder to think. I need more data to tell what's up, and the past few days haven't had much time for scientific thinking. So maybe it just comes from eating my Wheaties." So, all right. And so Louise Simonson says here, "While many levels down." So how do these supervillains get so much money? You know, it always struck me, if you guys and if any of you have watched the old G.I. Joe TV series from the 80s, how does Cobra get so much money to spend on all these things? It's just so sometimes, it's like I always say it's comic books, let's not overthink it, but sometimes you're like, how do they get this much money? It's it's not like supervillains are running a charity. They so anyway, Rusty says, "Why do you have us here, Hodge? What do you want us except for the fun of torturing us?" And Hodge says, "Silence, mutant. You may address me as commander when you are given permission to address me at all. You young mutants are biological oddities. Oh, genetic monsters. It is necessary to understand all I can about you so that I can exploit you properly. Richter knows all about that, don't you, boy?" And Rusty says, "Why don't you just leave us alone?" And Cameron punches him or hits him with this rod here that he has. "Mutants do not give orders. They obey or they die. Test that truth at your peril. War. A state of martial law has been declared." And Rusty is like, "War between who? Who declared it?" And Cameron says, "Mutants by their very existence. You have been created as tools, slaves of humanity. It is time you realized it and cease questioning your betters." And so he turns a button, but it's a snap. It shouldn't say snap. That's normally when you break something, but that's all right. And so he screams here. You can see the going through. And this guy says, "Excuse me, Commander." And Hodge says, "What is it, Corporal?" "Intruders register on the security screen, sir, in sector 412." And then he starts laughing here. You can see the haha. "So they have arrived, the fools. I had hoped as I prepared. As I had hoped as I prepared for so elaborately. Maybe for them so elaborately." And Richter says, "I wish I could see the screen. Maybe X Factor's come to save us." And Hodge says, "Save you? You still don't comprehend the hopelessness of your position here. Guard the doorway if unauthorized personnel appear, or if I have not returned in 10 minutes, kill them." And Skid says, "I had hoped, but I guess it can't be X Factor. How would they even know we are here?" And of course, Skids followed them and told them, or no, they used not Skids. Boom Boom. They captured Boom Boom. They used a Caliban to get there. Caliban wasn't dead. I think he could have led them here. And Richter says, "You think?" And so, Richter says, "It's like that chess game we played with Hank. Remember? It looked like our king was trapped, like there was no way out, but Hank said there was. All we had to do was find it." And Skid says, "Yeah, Richter, it's like Hank says, maybe we can't use our powers, but we still have our minds." And Rusty says that we better start using them. We have 10 minutes to get ourselves out of this mess. Let's make them count. And so now, several levels above. And so the right comes through, and so we are basically going to have our action moment. So I tend to just kind of show you what's going on there without me actually having to read, because most of the time it's just barking orders or things like that. So you can see that they're being led, and Sakalev's about to tell him, "I think it's a trap," which of course it is. And Swip. I don't know why Simonson is doing things so simply. It's he normally does a really good job at creating backgrounds, but he's really sort of not putting too many in there. So all right, and so he is Beast is gonna try to ram the door, but that doesn't work. He uses the optic blast, that doesn't work. It's ricocheting here. Wouldn't it ricochet forever? It would kind of keep over. And so Jean is gonna use the her telekinetics on the equipment, and it doesn't seem to work, and she asks, "What are the walls made of?" And so Hodge shows up, use probably with uh, it's like an illusion, so it's a hologram. Hologram was the word I was looking for. And Hodge says, "Surely you recognize ruby quartz, Scott, the one substance your force beams can't penetrate, the substance which blocks your uncontrollable optic blasts." And so Cyclops calls him out and says, "You engineered the amputation of Angel's wings, causes suicide." And Hodge says, "Kidnapped your charges," meaning the kids. Created anti-mutant hysteria, threatened San Francisco, massacred New Yorkers, and the world blames you mutants. Quite a litany of success, isn't it? And Cyclops is like, "Success," and he tries to shoot him, but of course, it's a hologram. And so he's like, "Temper, temper. Um, you can't touch me any more than you've touched anyone else in your life." Angel knew that. That's why he left me in control of his fortune. And he's like, Cyclops is like, "You tricked him." And Hodge is like, "So I still control X Factor's finance, and you are fired. A mere formality. Soon you will have, we'll have what we need from you, and then you'll be dead." And B says, "Dizzy, feel dizzy," and you can see that Caliban is also kind of holding him, and you can see Iceman is falling here, so something's up here. And it turns out that it is gas, and so they are all down. And so Hodge is gonna have his minions go get them, but they were playing possum. And Cyclops explains, "Good thinking, Jean. You got your telekinetic field over us as soon as you smelled the gas. Glad you guys picked up on it. Your Oscars are in the mail." And so he throws him to this, he calls it a junction box, so we'll go with that. And all of a sudden, you see this a scracked. And so it says here, several miles above floats the invisible, near impenetrable fortress of Apocalypse. And so remember that Fall of the Mutants comes the next issue. So, all right. And so even though we can see the fortress, this is how Simonson lets us know that it is invisible. Oh, my goodness. And Apocalypse says, "The right does the will of Apocalypse. They test both the ingenuity and strength of X Factor to its limit. Indeed, it is possible that our mutant heroes will not survive." And Apocalypse looks down on his horsemen. Now is the time for you also to face a test, my horsemen, against death. Day by day, your powers have grown, as have his. You are to compete strength against strength. The last one standing will lead you all. Breathe on him, plague, and he will sicken and fall. Clap your hands, war, and he will explode in a spout of noise and flame. Reach out your hands to him, famine, and he will shrivel before you. And so, remember, we've already seen him ways. We've just seen cameos, so now we are going to see what we have here. And we're going to see him much more clear. Even though issue 24 is considered his first appearance, this is really Archangel's first appearance, or as he is called right now, Death. Now, I don't know if they knew what the color, but this is going to be yellow. Okay, so the mask here is yellow, and we can see this scree slash. This book is starting to get more expensive as well. And Death says, "I am here, I am Death." And so let the combat begin. And so we're basically going to have a fight between Death and the Horsemen. And You can see here that Death, we'll just go by his name right now. We all know he becomes Archangel. We all know who he is here. And so he starts dispatching everybody. And Apocalypse says, "Excellent, my horsemen. You have indeed selected the strongest among you. Death will lead you, and you will lead the world to chaos and destruction." And we're going to have basically 3 issues of that. And so that ends that part, and we are now going to continue with our adventure here. And so the kids are trying to get out, but the lights go out. Of course, that's because of that junction box thing that happened in there. So the kids are able to get out. Here comes a guard here, and he's like, "Your 10 minutes are up. You got no powers. You've got one big problem, but remember, they're out now, so they're able to fight him." And so they can't take the helmets. These helmets drain their powers here and block them. So Richter grabs the gun and starts shooting. What is it? Is this the door or a cover? I don't know. But they're going to go through anyway. And so they go through, and you can see, holy cow. And they're seeing X Factor fighting the right here, and they're like, they did come for us. And so, all right. And so you can see that Cyclops says, "Hey, hit him in the joints here." And Cameron Hodge says, "Marvel Girl and Cyclops, they are the linchpins. Take them, and the others will follow." And Richter's like, "We gotta help them," and so they're going to use the guns. You're like, "Butta butta butta," and so they start hitting the right here, and the guys are like, "Let's get the kids," and Beast is like, "No," and Iceman says, "Hank, wait, don't do it." And he says, this time let me handle it," because of the way that his power's working. So he's gonna freeze him, but this guy comes through and puts a damper on him, and now he has lost his powers. So they managed to turn off his powers, and so Cameron, now they're all gonna dispatch everybody else. He runs out of bullets. Cameron Hodge is like in that ruby quartz thing, and smacks him, and he's like, says, any one false move and you guys were gonna die, basically. And so now we're gonna have Hodge versus Cyclops here. Of course, Hodge is surrounded in the ruby quartz, and Cyclops finally asks him, why is he doing this? And Hodge says, "Why what, mutant? Help Angel create X Factor, then destroy him?" And Warren was a fool. I was at school with him and his friends. And then that accursed freak grew wings. He was a mutant. Homo superior. And then he laughs. Ha. I was wealthier, of older stock, attended the best schools. That should have made me the Homo superior. But not an evolutionary dead end. Hodge, times have changed. You can't stop progress, says Cyclops as he gets punched. And he continues here. Stop fighting for stagnation against natural evolution of man. Without mutation evolution, monkeys would never come down from the trees. That is actually what evolution is. A mutation that improved. So we all came from single. There's a reason we have all these different species. And why are there so many species? And I know that okay, so not to get into any kind of theology or anything like that, in the Bible, people are like created by God, and everything is created by God. Scientifically, everything was evolution. And some people say, well, how? Well, mutations. So a cell eventually mutated, and it allowed it to become, this, and then it became that, and then things happened over tons and tons of time. So it's not like you become something else, just the mutations get passed on. And so that's how we have. And so Cyclops, what he's saying is correct. Mutations is the reason that we're here. And so and now Homo sapien cage monkeys as Homo superiors will cages. And he's like, Cyclops is like, Hodge, give up. We don't want to cage you. We only want to be left in peace. And Hodge says, peace? Ha ha ha. I will give you eternal peace. And Iceman is coming from behind, and he's like, nope, we're not going to do that. So he's going to work his way through his power, and he's actually going to because remember, ever since he went to Asgard, his powers are haywire. So under normal circumstances, it probably would have worked, but this new Iceman is much more strong. And so you can see that he is going to use ice and get everything really cold. And so Cyclops has had it, and he shoots at him. He says, we got something going besides our powers. We're a team, Hodge. We work together. So he shoots him here, and suddenly it is shooting him everywhere. Iceman, cracked your shell. I'm going to rip it apart. And so you can see all of a sudden, crack, and his head explodes. Now, we know that he comes back because it is comic books and no one really dies. And so he's still alive here. He goes, of course, even this armor couldn't hold you off forever. You win, Cyclops, but it's an empty victory. You had hope for peace and love. Fa. You know that our kind will never live in peace. What I sent to fight you, what you conquered, was a robot body, so never mind. You don't think I'd hazard my real body against you, knowing what you can do, knowing how much I have yet to do. So, all right. So, I had forgotten about that part. So, I was just as surprised as you. So, they're going to get rid of everybody else and realize that Hodge has escaped. And so, Marvel Girl grabs everybody, and suddenly the place explodes. Cyclops uses his powers, gets the things out. And Jean wonders why he hates us so. And Cyclops says, maybe I'd feel that way if my kind was about to be usurped. Maybe Hodge is right. Humans and mutants can't live together in peace if the humans don't want it. And so, no, Scott, if you begin to think that way, Hodge has won. People aren't all like Hodge. Peace, that's the only answer. And Apocalypse go, fa! Peace. A bridge between humans and mutants is not part of my plan. Peace does nothing to test, to increase the strength, to force them to evolve into the strong. Now is the time to make my move. Ready yourself, my horsemen. The true time of X Factor's true testing, and all your testing is at hand. And suddenly, X Factor is taken off, and the kids are left behind. And Skids is like, they disappeared, and Rusty says, it looked like, this is crazy, but it looked like the light the three horsemen use when they teleport around. And Richter says, you mean the three horsemen of Apocalypse? Last time they fought them, Hank got sick and Bobby nearly died. And Boom Boom says, three horsemen of Apocalypse? That's not right. Weren't there supposed to be four? And so now they are. And so next issue begins Follow the Mutants event. And so X Factor versus Apocalypse and his four horsemen: pestilence, famine, war, and death. So good stuff. X Factor number 23 by Louise and Walter Simonson with Bob Wiacek. Like and subscribe. I do thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.